I used to go into women's bathrooms quite often. On the ambulance.
She just.
Well,
Yeah. While I'm working on the ambulance, yeah, you know, whatever.
well, I've been sensing something back here the whole time.
Good.
Yes, I feel physically ill standing here. Yes. And I usually love water.
Well, there's somebody here who just keeps saying, help him, he fell in.
Mud. So it's all wet, and it wasn't as shaped as it was, and he's kind of stuck in the mud and needs some help getting out. Hold my hand. Let's see about lifting him up.
Even though I'm like in one of the most beautiful places in the world.
A little bit more difficult than usual lifting up ghosts, but this is just a sensation of stuck in a human stuck in the earth. While we were inside eating, I sensed a particular area high up at the back of the building where there was some dark energy, and it was just churning. One thing about anything that's moving, you have to get it to stop. Then you can have a conversation with it. So that's what I'm working on right now, is getting this churning energy, which didn't attack me, it's just dealing with its own issues, to slow down. I'm almost there.
I've had many encounters. They call me the haunted chef because I've worked in many haunted restaurants. I don't go looking for them like you guys do. They find me. They come to me all the time.
Do they go home with you?
Yeah, I got followed home by a girl named Ada. She was 7 years old. She was the niece of the Captain Daniel Packer from the Daniel Packer Inn in Mystic.
Okay.
I was the chef there. She was very playful. She died in 1760 something of scarlet fever. So she used to take tablecloths and do this. Every time we made the tables, she would do that to the corners of the tablecloths. She used to follow people into the bathrooms. So the bathroom was unisex bathroom, because it was just one upstairs in the dining room. And as you walked in, there was a big mirror on this wall, and you could lock it from the inside. And you'd walk in, and people would look in the mirror, and they'd see a little girl following them in. They'd freak out, and they'd run out of the bathroom. And then when we tried to get back in there, she would lock it. And we have to break the door down just to get back into the bathroom, which was kind of bizarre. But she was mischievous. She followed me home once because I had a friend of mine, a very close friend, a chef that does a lot of television shows like I do, but he's more of on the production side, does a lot of producing. He's got a show on public radio right now and stuff like that. Well, anyhow, he calls me one day. He's like, "Hey, we want to do a show at Daniel Packer about the ghosts." I said, "Yeah, sure." So he gets the film crew down, right? We're all doing the show, and he has 3 daughters, okay? And one was 7 years old, and he dressed up her in period clothes, you know, like the 1700s. And so in some scenes that me and him are doing, she'd be in the background walking by or something, you know, and he's just doing stuff like that. So we get done filming, and he was filming in the parking lot doing some closing things or something, I don't know, but his wife and the 3 daughters were there, and they wanted to see more of Ada's stuff. So it was up in my office, so I brought him up to my office. And I'm showing him, you know, her personal belongings and some of the things that she did and stuff like that. And on my wall, right near my desk, there was like a sleigh bell. You know those bells that go around reindeers' necks? It's a strap with 3 bells on it, 3 big bells. It's Christmas time, you hang them on the door, you know. Well, I had one of those on my wall in the office that came from a benefit for the kids at Sandy Hook that were massacred. And Chef Plum happens to live in Newtown, which is the same place. So we're in the office, and you know the girls are looking through things. They're little kids, you know. So it's like, all right, guys, we gotta go. I want to go. So say bye to Ada and thank her for, you know, everything. And they're like, you know, bye Ada, thank you Ada, bye Ada. And we turn around to go out the door, and those freaking bells on the wall rang 3 times.
Wow.
Like, really, it was like, Chef Plum's wife was like, oh my God. I'm like, it happens all the time. You get it? So, here's where I'm getting to the following home. I go home that night. Right? And my wife says, "How did it go?" I said, good. Had to get done. Plum dressed his daughter up in period clothing, and my wife's like, "Did you really do that?" And I said, "I didn't do it. He did it." And she's like, "You still went along with it. Don't do that. You're disrespecting it." I'm like, it's bull. Go to bed. Next morning, right, I wake up, comes in. She says, "Hey, smart guy, why don't you go look out in the backyard?" I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Go look in the backyard." So I go in the backyard. We have this giant gazebo, wooden gazebo, flipped over on its side. Right? Literally flipped over on its side. And it just happened because you know how in the morning, in the summertime, the dew rolls down wood or whatever, it comes straight down. Well, this was on its side. The dew was straight down and then turned. So this had just happened. Okay? There were no footprints in the grass. Nothing. My wood pile, the entire wood pile was thrown. Right. So I live in the ocean, in Niantic, on the ocean. So the gazebo was pointed towards the ocean. All the wood was thrown towards the ocean. And I have a 16-foot fence on the side of my garage that was thrown down and pointing towards the ocean. So my wife goes, "She followed you home." I'm like, no, I'm calling the cops. It's vandalism, right? Cop come. He looks around, he's like, "I don't see footprints." He goes, "This just happened a while ago." I'm like, "Yeah, it did." He goes, "Who hates you?" I said, "I don't know who hates me, but," And he's like, "Yeah," he says, "There's no footprints. I don't know how this happened." And I said, "What about the wood pile? Maybe a coyote or something?" He goes, "When was the last time you saw a coyote throw wood?" And I was like, "Oh." He goes, maybe in the Roadrunner cartoons." I said, "Yeah, well, this is real life." And I said, "In my fence." And he says, "Listen, dude, somebody did this to you, but there's no tire tracks, there's no footprints, there's no nothing. I don't know what to tell you." So I go and open my mouth. "Well, I did this show about a ghost." And he looks at me, I tell him the whole story, and he looks at me like, "Don't tell anybody else this story, please." He goes, "Dude," he said, "they're going to think you're nuts. Don't even talk about this." So he leaves, my wife's laughing at me. So I go to the restaurant and I tell the owner, and I says, "Oh my God, you should see what happened to my freaking house." And she said, "Yeah, Ada follows people home all the time." And she said, "You pissed her off, so you better apologize to her." So, and I did. I was like, "Ada," I run through the restaurant like an idiot going, "Ada, I'm so sorry, I'll never do." But she hasn't bothered me. She had come up to me about a week later and tugged on my chef coat and giggled. So I knew I was okay. We would hear her in the hallways. There was, have you ever been to Denny Packer? Has anyone been there?
Many years ago.
Okay, so there's a third floor dining room. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's where she hangs out, and she looks out the windows there all the time. So on the third floor dining room, we had a meeting, all right? And in the hallway that came up from the outside, we were done with the meeting, and I said, "Okay, guys, let's go, and we're done, blah, blah, blah." And we hear, "Bye-bye," a little girl's voice. And we all just look at each other. It's like, did we all just hear that? And, yep, we sure did. And it was Ada saying bye-bye. She said, "Bye-bye," just like that. It was like,
What's on that side?
okay, so one night I had two elderly ladies come to me and say, are you the chef? And I said, "Yes, I am." "Wow, who owns these two little girls in the hall? This little girl in the hallway?" I'm like, "What?" "There's a little girl in the hallway and she's playing with a ball and she would not move to let us by." And I'm saying to myself, "There's no little girl in the hallway. I know who it is." And I said, "So what did she look like?" "Well, she was dressed in funny clothes and she was playing with a ball and she ignored us when we tried to get by her and she wouldn't move." And I said, "Well, is she there now?" And the lady said, "I haven't seen her, but she was." And I'm like, "No, it was Ada. It was Ada. She would, same dining room. Same dining room Saturday night, super, super busy. Tables were close together, so we had a two-top and a two-top. And the server comes in the kitchen and says, "Chef, there's a problem in the dining room." I'm like, "What's the matter?" She goes, "I don't know, but there's this guy, I think he's gonna have a heart attack. He's like pale and he's sweating and he's not talking and his girlfriend's trying to make him talk and he's not saying anything." So I go out and the guy's sitting right there. And I'm like, "Oh my God, he's not looking good at all." And he turns to the gentleman sitting in that chair and he says, "Your name is David and I was told that I have to say hi to you." And the guy looks at him and says, yeah, my name is David. And he goes, who told you to say hi to me? And the guy is sitting right there and he's like, there's a girl whispering in my ear telling me that your name is David and I have to say hi to you. And it was Ada.
Wow.
It was Ada. The captain, I'd be there early in the morning, get stuff done in the bar. Me and the bartender would be working on the lines or whatever. And one morning we were in there, it's probably 7 a.m. Doors were locked. All the doors were locked. We were in the basement. The basement is the tavern. It's where they used to bring the slaves. He used to bring slaves in because he was a privateer. He used to bring slaves in, but it was as the Underground Railroad. He was not using slaves. He was freeing slaves, but he was also getting paid to bring them. So he was a privateer. He was a pirate. That's what he did. All right. So in the basement, we're there. It's a bar. It's really a cool bar, and we're working on the beer lines, and we hear boom, 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 boom across the floor. And the bartender looks at me and he goes, doors locked? I said, doors are locked. He's like, Captain? I said, I think it's the captain. So we go up. We didn't see anything. We go back down the stairs. Boom, 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 across the floor again. He goes, that's the captain. Okay, as long as he's not coming down the stairs, I'm good. But yeah, and you could watch, you could actually watch that show that we taped. It's on YouTube. Restaurant Road Trip, Captain Daniel Packer Inn. All right, look it up. We were nominated for an Emmy for the show.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool because Chef Plum called me up like a couple months afterwards and he goes, dude, you got a tux? I'm like, why, are we going to cook in a tux now? He said, no. We got nominated for an Emmy. I said, for what? He goes, for the show. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Well, we didn't win, but hey. Yeah,
But still,
Yeah.
Cool. That's very
yeah, so I mean, I've done so many damn restaurants that have, there's 3 in here. One that stands in this corner all the time. There's one that's in that hallway and the stairs.
He's in here now.
Yeah.
I can't seem to move him on. We've tried.
He's still right in the corner?
Well, yeah, he moves around. He hasn't been stuck in the corner.
He's always hanging out in that corner.
He walks there. I mean,
Yeah.
he just touched my leg 2 minutes ago.
Well, me and Tom, one of my line cooks, were in the basement 2 weeks ago, and we have 2 big freezers in there, you know? And we're just going through the freezer trying to throw this shit away, you know, that's how I am. And I got the freezer open, and Tom is standing right here next to me. And I'm in the freezer, and all of a sudden, I feel like this presence of a face right here, and then I feel right on my neck. And I spin around, I'm like, who's here with me? Tom goes, did you see that? And I said, I didn't see anything. I felt like someone on me. And he goes, dude, there was like this cloud right over your head. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. He goes, I'm not coming down here with you anymore because you're just, yeah, so, you know, like I said, I was at the Paranormal convention yesterday in Ansonia.
So are you the same gentleman that runs the Waterbury one too?
No.
Oh, it's a different person. Okay.
That's Nick Grossman.
Okay.
Yes.
So you do Ansonia once a year?
He calls me all the time.
Okay, because that one was great, but I'm sorry I missed yours yesterday.
Yeah,
But
yesterday was
you
fun.
do it once a year?
Yeah.
I'll go
And then
next year.
I do all kinds of stuff. I have a degree in cryptozoology, so
Nice.
I
Oh, my
do
son would
go
love that.
Bigfoot hunting. I mean, people look at me and go, yeah, you're nuts. No, I'm not.
So that's your car with the Bigfoot sticker on the back?
Yeah, he loves
That is
Bigfoot. Oh
nice.
my gosh, I just bought him a Bigfoot. We went to the Curioporium in Hartford. Have you gone up there yet?
No, I haven't.
You have to go up there because there's haunted objects in the
Yeah,
room.
well,
And somebody
I
told me about
knew
them.
Ed and Lorraine Ward.
Yeah.
I personally knew them. They helped me out back in the 80s when I had an issue in my house, which was in my son's room, and then we had found out later that the 2 previous people that lived in this house, in that room, the girl before, was a little girl, before my son was in that room, was thrown out of bed and her broken collarbone and dislocated shoulder. And then the girl before that, who was 8 years old, was raped and murdered in there,
Oof.
which is crazy. And my son woke up in the middle of the night, and he was probably 9, 10 years old, 9 or 10. He woke up in the middle of the night screaming and sitting in the middle of his bed. the hutch that was secured to the wall was down on the floor. The TV was across the room. He had blood on his shoulders, sides of his face, and his chest, and nothing was from him.
Wow.
And he, till this day, he's 33 years old, he will not talk about that night that happened to him. He still will not talk about it, which is crazy. But we had a lot of issues in there. That was the beginning of some
What town
craziness.
was that in?
I think I did it. Marian,
Okay.
right on Liberty Street.
Okay.
59 Liberty Street, across from,
I walk right down the road from there.
right across from Twist Street, right where the old police station used to be. If you
Okay.
come up Twist Street, that house right there on the hill, that was the one we lived in for 15 years, yeah. But we saw a little boy, and it was on Sunday night, 10 o'clock, me and my wife were in bed, and watching TV. And remember back in the 80s, you had those plastic rug runners with those little knots. Remember those damn things? You turn them over and you step on them. So we had one that went from the front door to the kitchen, okay? And our bedroom was right there, and we had giant sliding doors like that, and we kept open to the living room, all right? Because it was an old Victorian house. And we're in bed watching TV, and my wife hears little footsteps on the pad. And she looks over and she goes, Alan's up. He's going to the bathroom. Get up and turn the light on. He can't reach it. He's going to pee all over the floor. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I turn over and I look and I see this kid in the doorway with his back towards me with his hands on the two door jambs, and he's doing this, like in the kitchen, out. And he's just doing this, and he turns around and he looked at me, just like that, and ran into the kitchen. So I'm like, that little shit. So I get up and I go into the kitchen, go into the bathroom, and there's nobody there. I'm like, what the? I just saw him go in there. So I come walking out and I'm like, he's not in the bathroom. I said, what are you talking about? I said, he's not in the freaking bathroom. So I go into his room, which is adjacent to ours, and there he is, sound asleep. Holy cow. Yeah. And then there were a lot of things happening then. There were like cabinet doors, dead kittens, craziness, disturbances. My kid couldn't sleep. He was just going crazy with people. He said, there's people bothering me. There's no people here. We hear a lot of footsteps. We saw an apparition of somebody, which was probably a residual haunting, in the kitchen, walk from the kitchen to the bathroom area. And it was just like a split second, like one of these things. And we had saw that a number of times. So that's when we had called Ed and Lorraine. Lorraine came down and she was so nice. I had spoke with them earlier because I had them do some shows, some of their lectures at one of my hotels in New London. So I knew who they were, you know what I mean? And they came to me, they came for me, and they were just so cordial. Ed didn't come. He was at the lecture the first time, but that's when he got sick. So Lorraine was there, and she was just so nice, and she took care of things for us, but we felt uneasy when we left, you know. And we moved to, here we go. You want to hear that? Oh, now you're making me tell everything. So we moved to Griswold, Jewett City, actually. And we had found this house that was on the market. He's right next to you. We had found this house that was on the market.
Got away from me, finally.
Cheap house, right?
That's why.
So we're like, wow, this house is cheap. Let's go. I mean, what's wrong with it? Two-family house, nice neighborhood. Buy it. It's been abandoned for a while, but let's buy it. So we buy the house. So across the street lived this lady who worked at EB. She was a crazy lady. She painted submarines for a living. She was absolutely lunatic. But I liked her. Her name was Mary. I liked her. And she'd always come over with a big handle of scotch, you know. You bought Michael's house. He was such a good boy. He used to come over, cut my lawn, take me grocery shopping, blah, 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 do this, do that. He painted the bathroom for me. He used to babysit. So I listened to this crap for 2 years, this lady talking about this freaking Michael dude. Right? So, whatever, I bought Michael's house, yay. So we moved back here, we were having a picnic one day, and here she comes with a bottle of scotch, and she's coming across the street, and I'm like, oh, here comes Mary. And she sits down, and she's going on and on about this Michael. So I said to her, I said, hey, Michael had some pretty big dogs, didn't he? She said, Michael didn't have dogs. Michael hated animals. He hated cats. I said, really? And I said, well, I have some really bad, huge scratch marks in my basement door from the basement, on the basement side. Huge, huge scratch marks. Michael didn't own dogs. That's all she said. Now, in my basement, when we bought the house, the big selling point for me was that basement because it was old, but it had a stone jail cell in it. And there were stones and a steel door. And I saw that and I was like, this is cool because I could put Christmas presents in there, lock the door. Kids can't get them. I'm good. We're buying the house, right? So she's like, Michael didn't own dogs. No, Michael didn't own. He hated cats. Well, we had a cat that had a litter of kittens just before she told me, maybe months before she told me about this, that we would find a kitten murdered or mutilated in the house every other day or so. One was drowned.
Wow.
One was drowned in the toilet bowl.
Oh my God. That's
It was just me and my wife and my younger daughter. We didn't do that stuff. You know, we don't, you know, mutilated, literally, heads twisted. So the whole litter was killed. And so finally, you know, she's going on and on about Michael. I said to her, I'm like, all right, who the fuck is this Archangel? I remember saying that. Archangel Michael. Who is this Archangel, this deity of yours, Michael, that I own his house? She goes, you don't know? Michael Ross, the serial killer. You own his house.
Wow.
So, yeah. So one night, me and my wife were out, and my daughter was home. She was 16 at the time, and she gives me a call, and she says, Dad, I just got home, and I think someone's in the house. I'm like, what do you mean? I said, the doors were locked. She goes, yeah, I used the key to get in. I said, was it forced open? Or she goes, no, I just opened the door. It's a normal door. Dad, he's looking at me. He's in your bedroom. I'm like, what? She goes, there's a guy. She's on the phone, and she's like, Dad, there's a guy in your bedroom, and he looks like Napoleon Dynamite. I said, get the fuck out of the house, call the cops. So she runs. I call the cops. She called the cops. The cops come. She wouldn't even go in the house. Cops went through the house. I got there when the cops were there. They went through the house. They said, there's nobody here. And she said she saw no one leave. And I said, she said the guy looked like Napoleon Dynamite. And she goes, the cop said, yeah. So she told me too. I'm like, I don't know anyone that looks like that. Look up a picture of Michael Ross.
That's what I'm doing.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's him. It was him.
There it is. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, without the fuzzy hair,
Yep.
but yeah, the big glasses.
Yep, that's it.
Yep, the
Yep.
sad face. Yep.
Yep.
Wow.
My daughter moved out. She never went back into that house. She moved into her boyfriend. She goes, I'm not staying here anymore, Dad. I'm done.
You said you had restaurants in New London. Did you do
The S.H.O.N.E restaurant on Bank Street was haunted.
the Lighthouse Inn? Because I saw
I was
that
at the
ghost.
Lighthouse Inn.
I saw that
It
ghost
just
at the
burned down.
Lighthouse Inn.
Lily.
The bride.
Yeah, Lily.
Down the stairs. I was there for dinner. I went to the restroom, and I was coming back from the restroom, and there was nobody else in the hall. And here she comes, just gliding down the stairs, and she was a full
regalia.
solid. Yes.
Absolutely.
And, I was, and then once she got to the bottom of the stairs,
She's
she
just
was
gone. She died at the bottom of those stairs.
Yeah.
That's why she was gone. I was telling the guy that was putting in the beer taps for us, we were the only people in the building, in the entire building, because he came late, and here it is, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Everyone has gone home. This is before the restaurant opened. And I'm telling him about Lily.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's bullshit. I don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe in ghosts. That's a bunch of crap. I don't believe, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay. Well, I'm telling you, man, people have saw her. I've seen her. I've felt her. Her presence is here. And he goes, that's bullshit. In the dining room, which was literally right behind us, we heard, wham! Like someone took a stick, slammed it on the table. And he was like, what? I said, that's Lily. You just said that you didn't believe her? That's her. I said, who else is in this fucking building with us, man? Nobody. He's like, oh my God. He never came back.
I had a friend, his name was Charlie. He worked at that restaurant, and he was interviewed. Charles, yeah.
I love
He
Charles.
was interviewed on, because that restaurant was featured on a, I think it was an A&E haunted restaurant.
Well, it's cursed.
Yeah.
That's why it burnt down again.
I saw.
We just got it set up, and it burned
Yeah.
again. I would find my tools missing, my knives missing in there. I'd find them in the bar, and the bar is on the opposite end of the building. It's just 4 people died in the past 5 years there that were connected to that building, that owned the
Wow.
building.
Wow.
4 of them died.
Wow.
Just weird deaths.
Mhm.
One guy was like 52 years old, heart attack. You know, and I'm like saying to myself, my wife goes, "Why don't work there anymore?" And then it burns down, and then I'm like, you know what, screw that, I'm out of here. So I came
Yeah.
here. And then the minute I walked into this, I had my interview right here, and I walked in and I looked, I'm like, you got ghosts here? And she's like, oh yeah, and I'm like, yes, well, there's one right now. Yeah. But yeah, they follow me. That's why I don't go looking for them. I don't need to.
Yeah.
I don't need to.
Well, you're very open. That's
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah,
cool.
you're
That's a
medium.
very special gift too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. Yes.
I
It's
was
a
told
blessing
that.
and a curse
I was
all
told
at the
that by
same
my grandmother
time.
when I was a little kid, because I used to talk to my grandfather, my father's father, who had died when he was 12, and he used to sit in the living room with me. I used to watch Rin Tin Tin.
Mhm.
I'm dating myself. I used to watch Rin Tin Tin, and my mom would give me graham crackers and milk, and I would always offer him some. And he'd say, "No, they're for you, they're for you." And so I'd say, "Ma," my mother's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm talking to the guy that's sitting right down on the couch, and she's like, "There's nobody here." I'm like, "Yes, there is. He's sitting on the couch." So a couple times we'd come home at night. My dad worked second shift. So we'd come home at night, my mom, and there would be a guy in the kitchen sitting in the corner. "Oh, there's that guy." And I was like, "There's no guy here." I'm like, "He's always here. He's right there." You know, I was 3. I remember it. And so she had told my father. My father found a picture of him, and he brought it to me. We were sitting at the table, and my father walked up to me and says, "Do you know this man, Mark?" And I said, "Yeah, that's the guy that's sitting right there." And my father's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "He's sitting right there." I said, "That's my father." So I'm like, "That's my grandfather." Hi! My father's like, "I don't see anybody." I'm like, "Oh." And I was 3. I remember that till this day. And he would always talk with me. I would talk with him. I remember going to the store one time with my mother, and I got lost. I was a kid wandering away, and he showed up, and he grabbed my hand and he took me back to my mother. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just thought it was normal. It was like a normal thing. It was not like I'm seeing a ghost. It was like, we're talking now. This guy just grabbed my hand and said, "Here's your mom." You know? Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's weird. But that's who I am.
I appreciate your time. We appreciate
problem.
your
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah.
No problem. I like talking to you guys. I talk to people all the time like this, you know. I told this story yesterday at the convention, you know, and the other ones. I used to live in Roswell, New Mexico. Roswell.
A lot of stories there too, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories there. There's a lot. We won't get into that. But you know what? You can hear one of my shows on From the Shadows podcast. It's on Podbean, and it's From the Shadows. Just look it up. My name, Mark Vaquito, and it'll come up, and you can hear. When they got a hold of me to tell the ghost stories and all the other UFO crap, they called. So we're doing the show. We're taping the show. My phone hung up 17 times, and we were like, "What in hell?" He's like, "Someone doesn't want you to tell the story." I said, "Yeah, I know." But it's on the podcast where it keeps hanging up, and it keeps hanging up, and they'd call me back, and it would just hang up, and I'm like, "What the heck is going on here?"
That's a very interesting area, Roswell. I lived in El Paso, and we would go for rides, and there are very clear signs. You go past the sign, you will get shot.
Yes, they're very adamant about things like that.
Yes.
What happened is true, right?
What happened? I had a gentleman come to this restaurant 2 weeks ago who said to me, I was out there talking to him, and they were, we just came down from Manchester, blah, 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 and we're talking, blah, blah, and he sees I had a NASA, this is a Masa shirt, but I had a NASA shirt on that day. And he looks at me and he goes, "NASA, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I see a car in a parking lot with a NASA sticker on it and a Sasquatch." And I said, "That's my car." And he goes, "Really?" He says, "So you believe in that junk?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I do." And he goes, "Can I tell you something? I worked for the Department of Energy. I was a lifer in the military." I said, "Department of Energy?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "So what are you trying to say?" He said, "Well, there's a lot of things I can't say, but I worked at Area 51. And I said, "You did?" He goes, "Yeah, back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I'm looking at it, like, I got goosebumps. And he's like, "So do you know anything about that?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Does a name Bob Lazar ring a bell?" I said, "Yes, Bob Lazar rings a bell. Element 115. He says, "Yeah." He said, "He's still being watched for that." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "So?" He goes, 4 species that I know of aliens are on this earth. That's all I can tell you. But there's 4 species that I know of. He says, and your Sasquatch, the government buys land in Washington and Oregon and Northern California, buys up huge swatches of land that they do Bigfoot research on, and they knew about Bigfoot before the Patterson-Gimlin tape came out in 1967. They knew about a Sasquatch back then. It's nothing new to them. When they find evidence of families of them, they buy off the land, and they do not let you on it, and it's Department of Energy land. Why would the Department of Energy, buy 2,000 acres of dead forest?
Right.
Why?
Why is it secret?
Huh?
Why is
Because
it
people would freak out.
They don't want people to know things. They
Same
just
thing
don't
with
want people to know
ghosts. People would
things.
freak out.
People would freak out.
But I think we're more ready now.
Oh yeah,
I
no,
think
not
we've
all
been
of us.
ready for
Come
the
on.
longest time, and it's
All
not
of us
happening.
here are ready.
Disclosure should happen, but is it going to? Who knows? No, they're
I
keeping
think
everything
a lot
secret.
of it is
Well,
as humanity, if we all came together to be one united against some other force that is unknown, that means we all come together.
The
And
other
they
thing
can't
is,
have
they
us all
don't
come
want
together.
to let you know that there's other things
Right.
out there that they can't control.
Right.
Right.
They can't control them. They don't want you to know that they're vulnerable, or we're vulnerable. We're not vulnerable, they are. You know what I mean?
They're less rich.
I mean, think
Yeah.
about like the fluke with the War of the Worlds. Even though that was a mistake, people were jumping out windows.
Absolutely.
So what would happen if, Sasquatch is a real thing?
Yeah. It would, yeah. It's,
Well, nowadays, though, Sasquatch
I mean-
being a real thing, you get these people going out there with their M16s.
Exactly.
That's what they're
That's
doing.
the other problem.
That's what they're
Right.
doing, and it's not right. And I think that we just gotta doing the cryptozoology thing that I have done for years. I mean, there's like the giant squid. People didn't know that was a cryptid. Giant squid was a cryptid. All right, when the Lusitania went down, the survivors in the water were being swallowed up by giant animals, and they didn't know what the hell was going on. They're in the water. These things were taking people and bringing them down. When the survivors were rescued, they were telling stories of, we watched people just get plucked out of the water down by some giant arms. It made a couple newspapers, but it was squashed out really quick. No, never happened, bunch of bullshit. Well, 3 years ago, we find the giant squid in the same area the Lusitania went down, 120 feet long tentacles. It's there. It's a giant squid. It really happened. They don't want you to believe it.
Right.
Mountain gorillas. That was another cryptid. Mountain gorillas were found. They were found. They're real. Imagine that.
How about Loch Ness?
I think it's definitely a plesiosaur.
Okay.
Really, I do. It's there. It's just still alive.
Cool.
It's definitely still alive. I mean, it has access to the ocean. The loch is 27 miles long, and it goes from the Atlantic Ocean to, I'm not quite familiar, but the other ocean on the other side of Scotland, which is
North Sea.
the North Sea. That's it. So it has access to go, and that's a passageway. That's all that is. It's a corridor from one body of water to the other where he can feed. He can feed in the loch. It's 800 feet deep. There's got to be enough fish in there to feed off of. Of course there is. Come on, it's a no-brainer. Just people don't see it because they don't want to see it.
Right.
Oh, that's not real. Oh, that's not real. Yeah, bullshit. Yeah, it
It's
is.
fear.
Yeah, fear. Fear of the unknown, and fear of being called, oh, you're crazy because you believe in it.
Yeah.
I've been called out of my whole life. I don't care.
Yep, me too. Crazy and
Okay.
sensitive.
I don't care.
If I had a dime.
Yeah. Oh, you see ghosts? That's bullshit. Yeah. Not really.
Well, thank you. This
Cool.
is
Thank
great.
you very much.
It's nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, nice talking to
If you
you.
ever want to, talk to me again or do something, just get a hold of me. You can Facebook or whatever. I mean, I'm always open to it. Huh?
The food was good.
Yes.
Oh, well, good. I didn't cook it.
This
so
is
that's
Paul's
good.
card, so why don't
There
you,
you go.
take it and connect with us? And we're on Facebook under Spirit Healers of New England.
Okay.
But that's his website.
Very nice. Helping them move on.
Yep.
That's
That's
a-
what we're not hunters.
When my
No, we
first
don't like
wife,
the word hunter.
right? When my first wife passed, and that was a weird thing. And that was in Roswell. There's a whole story behind that. And when she had passed, 3 days afterwards, I was in the living room, and I was really upset. And I'm by myself, and I was just my dog. I was bawling my eyes out, and the freaking light on the ceiling exploded. Right? And she always had a thing about light bulbs. Right? She was always screwing in light bulbs. Oh, she used to drive me crazy with lights. The light on the ceiling exploded, and I'm like, that just happened, no big deal. And then 10 minutes later, boom, the other two lights just blow right up. I'm like, Lori, is that you? Boom, a third light in the other room goes, and I'm like, okay, Lori, you gotta go. Go, you can't follow me.
I've only had one light explode. I
Yeah,
can't imagine how I would have
four
reacted to
in
3.
10 minutes, and one was right after I
crazy.
mentioned her name. I said, Lori, is that you? It's like, you gotta go, Lori.
Wow.
She moved. She went on. That's good. That's good.
Did you move the one in there?
He needed some healing, so I took him up and he found some people.
Yeah, it feels better in here.
Yeah, he's gone now.
Compared to, oh my God.
He was there.
He was literally doing this to me. Like, leave me alone. And then Paul went over there, and yeah. Sometimes they don't want to talk to women if it's from a certain era.
With him, helped him to heal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool.